G'day, John Canny here. Well, it's time to give you a bit of a summary of my thoughts on the Ineos Grenadier, or my Ineos Grenadier anyway. I've done 9,049 kilometres in the car since I got it, and I'd say 8,000 of those have been on trips to the Outback in Queensland. And probably 5,000 of those kilometres have been over unmade tracks or roads, many of them heavily corrugated. The way the antenna's moving. Or pretty rough. So I spent a fair bit of time behind the wheel, so I think I'm reasonably qualified to comment on my car. So the first thing I want to say about the Ineos is that I love it. It's a fantastic car. Look, I'm not going to talk about the off-road capability of it. I think that's been established. This car is amongst the top, 3 or 4 cars probably that are available in Australia anyway, as far as being capable off-road. We know that the Toyota 300 is capable. We know that even the new Defender is very capable off-road. It may not be ideal for touring in the Outback and things like that, but it's certainly a capable car off-road. And this is up there. Okay, so we know that. But as a vehicle, for me, for doing what I call overlanding or Outback touring in Australia, it suits the bill. Steering's fabulous. People have talked about, is the steering good, bad or ugly? As far as I'm concerned, the steering is fine. I've mentioned this in some of my other videos and shown examples of it, but travelling along dirt tracks or the open highway, it just sits there beautifully. There's no problem with that. Now, it's not a mini minor, okay? So the turning circle is quite large and you've got to get used to that. Hey, that's what it is. It's a big 4-wheel drive. Okay, but it's comfortable, as I said. I love the Recaro seats. They're terrific. I don't mind them being manual. The rear of the car, passengers have commented that they're comfortable, that the seats are nice in there, and it's roomy in the cabin. Radio works like a radio. It's nothing fantastic, I must say, the sound system, but it's fine. The heater and air conditioner, well, I haven't had much opportunity or need to use the heater, but the air conditioner works fine. Yep, I know it's not dual control. We live well without dual control. The power of the engine is more than adequate. Okay, so the engine's beautifully smooth. I love the engine in this car, and I love the transmission. It just seems to work really well. There are things like the cruise control. It's just the basic cruise control system. Fuel consumption, most of mine has been towing a van, so my fuel consumption's been up there. It's probably around 18 and a half, towing a medium-sized camper trailer. So about 5.3 tonne overall. I'm getting about 18 kilometres. I can get that down to sort of 15 or 16 if I drop the speed down to about 80 kilometres an hour. But that's not what you're going to be doing on the highway. Love being in the cabin. Love the dials. I find all these dials and knobs and things easy to use, in the right place, easy to put my hand on. Great. The centre knob here, I find it a bit clumsy at times. It seems to slow in its reaction to the screen, but it gets there eventually. So maybe that's just a software update. Now I'll talk about the software updates a few times, because we're hearing a bit about those, and hopefully they're going to fix a few of the issues that I'm going to talk about, because there are some things in here that I'm not going to say are bad, but I think they could have been done better. And I'll talk about the cabin first, right? So in the cabin, look, while I sit here, for example, one of the things that, you get into this cabin and there's no storage space, virtually no storage space, I should say, in the car, right? I've got a center console box, and I've got some pockets in the doors, which are very small, and by the time you put a drink bottle in there, that's it. The glove box, well, it could hardly be called a usable glove box in my opinion. It's tiny, so there's nowhere really to put your mobile phone. You can put it, you know, behind the gear levers here and that, but it's hard to get when you want it, and so it's got to go in the drink holder. So the storage space is a real issue. If you go into the cargo area, there's a little tiny pocket next to where the jack is that you can put a few things. Other than that, everything has got to be out in the cargo area. There's no lift up floor or anything like that. There are some pockets or some spaces under the front seats. Yeah, you know, probably could slip a small first aid kit in there if I needed to, but they're not things that you can access while you're driving the car. To me, that's one of the biggest issues about the cabin. Other than that, you know, as I said, I love the cabin. The other things that I'll start to talk about is little things like ignition key. Okay, it's on the left, it's kind of tucked down the side, that's okay, no problem. But finding it at night or when you're in the garage or that with the key, because there's no illumination around it. The other thing in the cabin is there's very few electrical outlets. In fact, the only electrical outlets in the passenger and driver's side are the two that are inside the cargo box, you know, the console box. Now, whoever came up with the idea of putting those things in the console box, I don't know, it must be easier. But if you've got stuff in there, or you're driving, or they're really awkward to get to. And you know, in this day and age, we've got so many things that we want to plug in. Why not give us a few more? There's a couple in the back here for the kids. I think there's a USB and a USB-C, and that's it. Now I've put in some additional points down the bottom from my auxiliary power outlets, which are in the footwells. There's another issue. They're hidden so well that most people can't find them, and I've done a video showing you how to find them, because they're pretty useful, and they are switched up the top here. So I've used one on one side to run a cigarette lighter and a couple of USB ports down there, so I can run my mapping system and whatnot. The other side, I've got a connection there for my review camera when I use that. But yeah, give us a few more. So one of the other issues that I feel is really not up to scratch is the reversing camera. We've got such a small area of the screen allocated to the reversing camera, and look, it's difficult to see out the back of this car, and it's really important to have a good reversing camera. I don't understand why they can't use more of the screen for this. Maybe some stage they will be able to do that, but at the moment it's inadequate. Inadequate to the point where I'm almost tempted to get an additional reversing camera on the car. In my particular case, in this cabin, I don't have heated seats, so I've got two blank spots. Wouldn't it be nice if they'd said, oh well, we're not putting heated seats in, let's put a couple of power outlets or something in those two blank locations. Now, talking of those blank locations, the whole panel needs to come off. They're not individual panels at all. So yeah, okay. Little things, I know, but things that I think would have been nice to have been done better. There's no mirror on the vanity passenger side thing. Couldn't we have had a mirror for, you know, my wife would like to look in the mirror, I would like to look in the mirror occasionally. Just another little thing. Yeah, so they're a bit annoying. Recaro seats are great, but there's no map pockets or anything in the back, so you know, kids with iPads and things these days, they've sort of got them on the floor and floating around. So finally in the cabin, there's the issue of the footwell on the right-hand drive vehicles. All I can say about it is, for me personally, it hasn't been an issue. So there's a few things I need to get addressed by Ineos through the agent. One of those is the fuel gauge system. It's all over the place. I've mentioned this a number of times in other videos, but there is the other thing that drives me nuts is that there's no satellite sat-nav system in this car. Okay, so you use your phone. The trouble is when you connect up your phone to this thing, the delay is so bad you cannot use it. So I have no navigation system here if I connect any phone to that. That's got to be fixed. These two things are further supposed software updates, so we're going to look at those. Also, the parking sensors. As soon as I get in this car, turn the ignition on, the parking sensors are blaring. So I have to switch them off every time I get in the car to drive off. Another software update, I assume. So they're the three sort of electronic type software issues that have to be dealt with. But there's nothing else. And as I've said before, this car's not let me down, and there's not a rattle in it after 5,000 kilometres of bone-shattering corrugations. So not too much to complain about. That's the cabin inside, but overall I love it, and I love driving this car. Now, if we look at what's going on outside the car, that things that I think could be better, there's not much. There's not much. I've had a problem with one of the door steels. The door steels, amazingly, are just glued on. They're not. There's no lugs or anything to hold them on, and they're replacing one next week that flopped down. So, fine, they're replacing it. The car is dustproof. You know, I've done a lot of kilometres on pretty shabby road, and I haven't got any dust in this car from that. You know, I've got a bit of dust when I stupidly open the doors. As soon as I pull up, a big cloud of dust follows me. But no, the dust proofing is really good on this car. The floor mats and things like that are good and easy to clean, which I didn't mention before, but they're one of the things that I really like. I don't have carpets. When I came back from my first trip, I got this car. I got an oil change at 6,000 kilometres. I probably would have got one at 5 if I'd been back a bit earlier, but it was 6,000 before I got the oil change, so I was happy with that. I'm certainly not waiting for the first oil change at 15,000 kilometres, but that's just me. I have had a look under the car, and I've got some video here of having a poke around underneath the car. Okay, so let's have a bit of a look underneath. Okay, so we look up the front here. There's certainly no damage to anything. Everything's looking pretty good under there. There's nothing hanging down, nothing caught. Okay, just go through the back here. Let's have a look at what else we've got going on under here. Still a fair bit of mud on here from a trip which I haven't cleaned off properly. Under here, mud on the springs, nothing really hanging down. Here. So apart from this little few wires, nothing too much to worry about. But this is where I suddenly got a shock. What? What's going on here? Made in China? Goodness me. So the side steps are made in China. And you know what? Let's have a look when we get out. Well, this is what we've got happening to the side steps. Any surface that was on that is gone already. Appears to be some level of corrosion in there. I guess we can see here again that on the side step, the surface has been taken off. It's quite corroded already, so that'll be an interesting one to talk about in the future. Yeah, what's going on there? Okay, side steps made in China. Other than that, we need to talk about the rear end of this car and the disappointing fact that this car is not set up for towing in Australia. There are a number of things that contribute to that, which I'll talk about. Firstly, there's the electrics. Now the rear, we've got a NATO plug. That's the only power source. Now the NATO plug, who uses NATO plugs? Military? I don't know. But okay, we can use the NATO plugs if we go and buy a $200 adapter and do all those other things. But the issue with the NATO plug is it's there specifically for a rear winch, if you want to put a rear winch in. So therefore it's linked in to the 500 amp switch and the front relay, so you've got to turn those on to make it operate, and then the front winch is live as well. It's just not right. It is very easy to change that. So you can rewire that easily so that you've got power there permanently, and you can use an adapter, as I said, and which is what I do, and an adapter to an Anderson plug, and I run my van off the back. Then you've got a 13-pin plug. Well, very few of us use 13-pin plugs in this country. I mean, I know Volkswagen and a few of the others have them, but the 13-pin plug is not a real 13-pin plug either. There are 3 blanked off points in there, so there's no ignition trigger wire if you want to be connecting up to run your caravan charger or your fridge. You've got to rewire a brake controller up separately, and then get an adapter to go to a 12-pin flat plug, which is what we mostly use in Australia. The other thing is the tow ball mount itself. A couple of things about the tow ball mount. Firstly, the hole is a 1-inch hole in there, which is the American size, not the Australian size. So if you've got a Cruisemaster DI35 hitch, you're going to have to, you can't use the pin that comes with it because it's too small. You're going to have to order the American one from Cruisemaster. So there's another $100. However, the tow ball mount itself, I needed or want to get a slightly longer one because it's really short. Okay, so being short means mounting things like stone stoppers and things like that is quite difficult, and I needed a bit longer. The problem is the tolerances in the receiver are so tight that Heyman Reese won't fit, tag won't fit, arc won't fit, because they're all 50mm by 50mm, but they're not actually 50mm by 50mm. For example, the arc tow ball mount is 50.8 by 50.8 plus or minus 0.8. Okay, the actual receiver itself is 50.8 by 50.8, so it just won't slide in and out. This stage I haven't found another tow ball mount that will go in that receiver, so that's something to watch out for. So they're the issues with towing, but you know, we can all get them sorted out eventually, which I kind of have, except for the tow ball mount. Then there's a dual battery setup. Now, part of the frustration comes with this is the fact that we don't have any sort of electrical diagrams available to us. So it's not set up like we traditionally set up dual battery systems here, where we separate the second battery and we use that for our accessories, so that we isolate the ignition battery and it's always there ready to start the car. In this case it's more complex. It seems to be a support battery. Ineos have wired up their overhead outlets and different things, even the cigarette lighter in the back, I believe, to the ignition battery. So there's some work to be done on that to figure that out, and perhaps it's necessary to purchase, or it seems to be necessary to purchase, the additional C-Tech battery charger, the 250, but I'm still working that out. I have actually purchased that additional charger, I just haven't fitted it yet, so that's a bit of a mystery too. Some electrical diagrams would be such a help to everybody, let alone manuals for the rest of the car. And it was my understanding that we were promised all of these manuals. Oh, we're going to give you the CAD drawings and everything else. So now you can't get anything, and that's so bloody frustrating. Anyway, hopefully they'll come with time. So they're kind of the main issues with the car. They're all minor. This is a great car. If I went down there and sat in you know, the Subaru or something like that, I'm sure I could give you a list from that too. But I really enjoy this car. I enjoy driving it. So thanks for watching. If this has been interesting to you, or you feel so inclined, I'd appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel. It just helps getting the video distributed, that's all. Doesn't get me any money. So thanks again. Talk to you again soon.